All right, welcome back to Alexploring. My name is Alex. I am here today in Wood County, Ohio, up in Northwest Ohio. We're going to get some historical markers in and then go to the Bowling Green football game. So we're at our first one here in North Baltimore. Let's get started. All right, so here's the first one. It's about North Baltimore Elementary and High School building. This is number 2387, placed here in 2018. Our first here in Wood County. North Baltimore Elementary and High School stood at 124 South 2nd Street and was dedicated November 11th, 1927. The tan and brown brick building replaced a school that was built in 1884 that a fire destroyed on January 26, 1926. The new school building for children in grades 1 through 12 also included classrooms for home economics and business courses, as well as a 900-seat auditorium, including balcony, second floor cafeteria, gymnasium, administrative offices, and a public library. E.E. Leidy was the school superintendent, and R. Vern Northup was the high school principal. The members of the Board of Education were Dr. E.A. Powell, President D.B. Bushy, Vice President C.G. Nye, Clerk and Nellie Roberts, and R.E. Simon. Previously known as the Independents, the school sports teams became the Tigers in 1931. In 1952, Miss Clara Miller became the 1927 building's first elementary principal, and the district added a kindergarten. Eventually, all students in grades K through 6 moved to the E.A. Powell Elementary School building after it was built in 1958. In 1964, the district enlarged the gym and added industrial arts and music rooms. In 1974, the administrative offices moved to 110 South 2nd Street. Renovations to the auditorium in 1981 included a new concrete floor, new seating, and a large stage. In 1987, the school's cafeteria was moved to the ground floor. On May 27th, the class of 2012 was the last to be graduated from the 1927 building. The last event at the auditorium was the musical Oklahoma from June 8th to 10th, 2012, part of the year-long Bringing Down the House commemoration. The building was raised later that year. So this is where the North Baltimore High School would have been. You can see there's some nice little ode to North Baltimore Tigers here. And then looks like there's a flagpole here. But yeah, we're right over here by kind of the uptown area of North Baltimore, right by the railroad tracks. It's pretty cool. First historical marker here in Wood County to stop at. Let's head on to our next one. I think the next one is still North Baltimore, but we'll be headed to our next one now. So today is homecoming at Bowling Green State University. Then that's where I went to school. So that's why we're going to stop at the football game. We're going to get as many stops as we can in here today. We may not get all of the stops in Wood County. I'm planning on doing a Perrysburg video completely separate, because that's about where half of the historical markers here in Wood County are. All right, so we are here at the North Baltimore Public Library for the next Ohio history marker. Here we have the Community First marker, placed here in 1997, number 1087. So in 1812, General Hall's army marched along Rocky Fork Creek at the southeast edge of town on their way back to Detroit. And this is from the War of 1812. 1834, Beeson Grist Mill established along Rocky Fork Creek, north of East Broadway. 1874, so 40 years later, the first post office opened. Lincoln P. Hudson was the postmaster. In 1875, first newspaper, the New Baltimore Enterprise, founded by B.L. and D.E. Peters. Next year, 1876, B.L. Peters was elected the first mayor of North Baltimore. Then in 1884, Henry's Opera House, 1929 North Main Street, was dedicated by Dr. A.G. Henry. In 1886, the first oil well was struck. The first gas well was established. 1888, the People's Bank organized, but then closed in 1894, purchased by Hardy Banking Company. Same year, the Central Pressed Brick Company opened, producing 8 million bricks every year. Same year again, the Zittelman Glass Company opened, making 1,000 drinking glasses a day. City Hall was built in 1890 at a cost of $5,925. It was then torn down in May of 1985, 95 years later. In 1890, again, North Baltimore Electric Company, founded at 115 West State Street by Dr. Henry. Then 1902, the Toledo, Bowling Green, and Southern Electric Interurban streetcar line was completed. It was abandoned 28 years later in 1930. And let's see if there's anything different. Okay, so this is going to be all about North Baltimore. Located in southern Wood County, the village of New Baltimore was founded in 1860, right at the beginning of the Civil War, with the first plat of 29 acres recorded by B.L. Peters in 1873. Official incorporation occurred February 7th, 1876, with the name being changed to North Baltimore in 1880. The town flourished owing to the construction of the Baltimore-Ohio Railroad in 1873, from which the town took its name, and the discovery of rich oil and gas deposits in 1886. First settlers included Jacob Dirk, George Franks, Levi A. Tarr, and B.L. Peters. The population of the village grew from 700 in 1880 to 2,857 in 1890. One of the first buildings, which was erected in 1860, served as a school and meeting hall and was located on the northwest corner of the Main and Broadway streets. This area, then known as the Great Black Swamp, had given birth to a thriving town. It's interesting to say the Great Black Swamp, a lot of Northwest Ohio was a part of the Great Black Swamp, and it's still, even before they started farming on it, it's shaped how settlements have kind of came across here. But there's the Historical Society from North Baltimore, too. All right, let's move on to the next stop. In Grand Rapids, Ohio, where we have the First Presbyterian Church. This is historical marker number 987, placed here in 1996. On this site in 1848, the Presbyterian and Methodist entered into a situation unique to Gilead, as Grand Rapids was then known, by jointly constructing a frame church for worship. James Purdy, grantor, sold the lot for $5 for religious purposes, thereby authorizing either denomination to sell to the other. Proceeds were to be used to build another church. This ecumenical arrangement continued until 1880, when the Methodists sold their interest in the building to the Presbyterians in order to build a new church. The Presbyterians, whose charter included 11 members when they first organized at Geyer Schoolhouse on September 18, 1848, built a new church here in 1928. One addition to the building was made in 1961. So there it is. We have a few more here in Grand Rapids before we start heading towards Bowling Green. All right, we are now in Grand Rapids, the other side of Grand Rapids here. This is from the Grand Rapids Historical Society here, this building. And we have marker number 687, Grand Rapids. It was placed here in 1983, so this one's been here for a while. And this is right at the banks of the Maumee River. You can see there on the left side. All right, this site at the head of the Great Rapids of the Maumee has been a major river crossing for centuries. The village was platted in 1833 as Gilead, but was overshadowed by rival Providence during the Canal era. In 1868, the name Grand Rapids was adopted and the town prospered with the arrival of the railroad in 1877. Fires ravaged the village in the late 1890s, and spring floods have remained a threat. Restoration of the Victorian architecture began in 1975 and has helped revitalize this village along the historic Maumee. All right. And it's the same on both sides. Run across the street and get that next one that's right there at this little cemetery. They also have this bridge here that goes over the river. They have a little railroad on it. I'm not going to do that today. They were all looking at me like I might, but not today. But looks like here they have on the 12th of October, they have the Apple Butter Fest. And then in here, it's very interesting. A bird has made its home here, but there's a bunch of different material, such as visit Grand Rapids, Ohio. There's some of the happenings here. And they have this big map of the village. 1833. There's a little window here. This is a very short building. So you can actually see, so right here, they have the Miami-Erie Canal towpath. It went through the Maumee River, and that took you all the way down to Cincinnati back in the day. So from the very northern side to the very southern side, it's all connected. All right, let's head across the street. All right, so here's our next one. This is really kind of right at some crossroads, so I got some people looking at me, but they can watch this online. But this is the Howard Cemetery, 1980, placed here, number 587. Thomas Howard, age 66, a Revolutionary War veteran, arrived at the head of the Great Rapids of the Maumee from New York State in 1822. 3 cabins were erected for his family and the families of his 2 sons, Edward and Robert. The first death in this settlement was Thomas Howard in 1825, so that's 3 years later. And this plot, then a wooded bluff on a sharp ravine, was chosen as a burial place. Other Howards were buried here, and in 1850, Tina Beek, a family friend and one of the last of the Ottawa Indians in this area, was laid to rest in a corner of the family cemetery. WPA workers leveled the ground and relocated many graves in 1938. Howard Cemetery is now owned and maintained by the Village of Grand Rapids. So you can see these steel heads. Then you can see there's Thomas Howard's grave, 66-year-old William Howard. And then you have James Howard, who was 19 when he passed, and then Edward Howard, 53 when he passed in 1841. James died in 1840, and this one's really hard to read. Nancy, 82 years old, died in 1881. Yeah, Nancy Howard. So 5 Howards buried here. There's 3 other stones back there, but they aren't associated with the Howard Cemetery. Let's head on over to our next Ohio historical marker. All right, we are here just a couple blocks away from the last one at our next Ohio historical marker, the last one in the Grand Rapids area. So this is Dominick Labino, number 887, placed here in 1992, also on the bank of the Maumee River here. This site is dedicated to Dominick Labino from 1910 to 1987, glass scientist, engineer, artist, and inventor credited with 57 patents. Mr. Labino invented pure silica fiber, which was used in insulating tiles covering the Space Shuttle Columbia and the Apollo, Mercury, and Gemini spacecraft. As a glass artist, Labino was co-founder of the Studio Glass movement in America. His artworks are in over 60 museums in the U.S. and abroad. We got a little plane there. And his architectural elements of hot cast panels are in many public buildings. His forte was originally formulation of glass of high quality, durability, and unusual color effects. A resident of Grand Rapids since 1956, he was a benefactor and warm friend to the village. So let's take another look. Same on both sides. We're right on the border of Ross and Lucas County. Lucas County is what the city of Toledo is in. Here you go. We got a bridge going right over the river. That plane is going. Just need a U-turn. But yeah, there we go. Our last spot here in Grand Rapids. Let's move on to our next Ohio historical marker. right, we're at our next Ohio historical marker here in Tontogany, Ohio. Custer Homestead. Near this site stood the former Custer Homestead of Emanuel and Marina Custer from 1856 to 1865. For the 2 years, it was the boyhood home of Captain Tom Custer, younger brother of the famed General George Armstrong Custer. At age 16, Tom misled a recruiter in neighboring Gilead, Ohio, which is now Grand Rapids, about his age and enlisted in the Civil War. He later earned 2 Congressional Medals of Honor. First person in history to do so, for capturing enemy flags at Namozine Church on April 3rd, 1865, and at Sailor's Creek on April 6, 1865. His parents relocated to Monroe, Michigan during the Civil War, which, if you remember, that's near where River Raisin is. Tom continued serving in the Army during the Indian Wars in the West and often visited his brother Nevin in Tontogany. He, along with his brothers George and Boston, brother-in-law James Calhoun, and nephew Harry Reed were killed at the Battle of the Little Bighorn in June 1876. So this is number 1987. Placed here in 2008. Same on both sides. All right, let's head south to Bowling Green now. I think we have time to go to that last one, and that will be it before the game. All right, so we've made it to the game. I tried to stop at that last historical marker, but it was right off the highway, and it just wasn't safe to stop there. So I'm going to go ahead and put the historical marker here, and I'm going to read it in a voiceover whenever I get home. So here it is. All right, so this is the Ohio historical marker that we couldn't find on Dixie Highway up in Bowling Green. It's for the First Seventh-day Adventist Church. I don't know if it's there or not specifically, but here's what it has to say. Elder Oliver Mears organized on February 8th, 1862 in a tent on this spot, then a walnut grove owned by William Lovett. The Lovett's Grove Seventh-day Adventist Church, first of the denomination in Ohio, a frame building erected in 1864, served the congregation until 1911 when it moved to its present location in Bowling Green. This was the second Ohio historical marker placed in Wood County, and it was placed in 1974. All right, then the second Ohio historical marker we did not have time to touch on in the video while we were in Bowling Green was located at the Wood County, Ohio Historical Center and Museum. It is all about the Wood County Infirmary, in which the museum is located in. This was placed here in 2000 and is number 1187. The infirmary, also known as the poorhouse or simply the home, is one of the last county poorhouse sites in Ohio where nearly all the original structures still stand. The main building, constructed in 1868 with outbuildings added over the years, served as home for the county's poor, sick, orphaned, elderly, and mentally ill. The lunatic house was added in 1885 as a facility for the violently insane. The infirmary operated as a self-sufficient farm where residents contributed according to their ability. Throughout its 102 years of service, the infirmary had an average population of 80 residents, swelling to over 140 during the Great Depression of the 1930s. The site was closed as a poorhouse in 1971, but reopened in 1975 as the Wood County Historical Center and Museum. The Wood County Infirmary was added to the National Register of Historic Places in 1979. Now that we got those two out of the way, let's enjoy the sight and sounds of the Bowling Green football game. I have a couple clips from the pregame show, and then I will have a cool slideshow of photos I took with my DSLR camera. So sit back and enjoy the Bowling Green football game highlights versus Liberty University.
Presenting the Falcon Marching Band. The Falcon Marching Band has welcomed its alumni back to Dwight Perry Stadium to perform with the current Falcon Marching Band. Currently representing the classes of 1972 through 2025, here is the Alumni Falcon Marching Band. Welcome to Homecoming! The roots of this program run deep, and a new branch was started last week. Coach George is here to make his mark, and we gotta be loud all game long. Falcon Nation, I need you on your feet!
All right, well, that wraps up part one of the Wood County, Ohio Historical Marker Tour. We will be going back to Wood County at some point to film a video all about Perrysburg and the remaining Ohio historical markers that we were not able to go to in the northern part of the county. There's a lot of different historical places there, including Fort Meigs, which was in the War of 1812. So we'll be hitting that in a later episode. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you liked what you saw, give me a follow and subscribe. I'm trying to build up our channel so then we can bring you more Ohio history. With that being said, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.